and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Ali.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're officially on video! You can see our lovely, lovely faces.
Let's just talk about the background of, like, us being on video right now. Because first and foremost, I still am meaning to send Ali a ring light. Because when we first decided to do this, I was like, Ali, I can, like, barely see you through your screen. It's always dark over there. So it'll get better because I'm going to send Ali a ring light, first and foremost. Second, I just appreciate how neither of us bothered to try to dress nicer than we usually dress. Why would we? This is how we are. This is how we come.
No, exactly. And for anybody who's wondering why I'm wearing a Stanford hoodie, no, I'm not smart enough to have gone to Stanford. I like wearing US college gear. The randomer the better. When I do my tour of the States, you better believe I'm picking some up. So
I'm trying to think about the most random one that you have, and I can't think about it, right? Do you think you have a Syracuse one?
I have a Syracuse one. I have one for a university in Arizona that doesn't exist anymore. Like Ashford University, I think it was. That doesn't exist anymore. I have a Washington Huskies one, just because somebody was like, you like Hope Solo. There you go. I was like, thank you very much. So yeah, so I've got a few.
I thought you were wearing it in honor of me because I've been doing commentary for their men's and women's soccer teams.
Yeah, let's go with that. And friend of the pod, Reva Sali. There we go. Let's do that.
This is very exciting. I don't know what else to say about it.
We did a test. I will say this very quickly. We did a test run last week to see if this worked. And the feedback we got from Sarah was, I am a hand talker. And we were like, did you not know this?
Thank you for reminding me of that right before we do this entire episode. And I have to look at my own face, which I haven't figured out how to make smaller, for the record. Not yet, at least. Yeah, that was pretty painful because I was watching back some of the clips and I was watching back just the edit that our wonderful producer and editor, Michael, put together to just see that it looked all right. And I was like, my Lord, I knew I was a hand talker, but I didn't know the extent of it. And now I'm very self-conscious and holding my hands clasped together right now. All right, let's do it. Before we kick on to the football of it all, which we have, last week was a packed episode. Maybe we should have done video for that super packed episode. We got a packed episode this week, but I would say fewer leagues to cover. We're doing WSL and NWSL. Tried and true, spending a good chunk of time on both of them. But before we get into both of those, obviously last week, Ali shared some really wonderful stories about the late Matt Beard, some personal stories that honestly warmed my heart and made me smile every time I re-listened to it because we put those up on social. So I was cutting those together to put up on social. If you missed them, head to our socials or just head to last week's episode and listen. And more recently, it was released apparently by the BBC how he passed away, like the intricate details, which is really unfortunate. And Ali wanted to just spend a moment because that should never have been done. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you just want to warn people, try to stay away from the BBC and don't open it if it comes up on your phone as a notification.
Yeah, I have BBC Sport on my phone to notify me because I like to keep ahead on women's football. And it came up about the Matt Beard inquest. And so I clicked it thinking it was just going to be what normally happens, which is they tell you like how they died in the way that they will tell you if it was suspicious, not suspicious, natural causes. And I thought they would just do that. No. They actually went into the full-on method of how he died, which I didn't need to know. I didn't need that in my head. So I just wanted to give you guys, anybody who's got a heads up, don't click it. You don't want that in your head. That's not how you want to remember Matt. So just this is just a PSA. Don't click it. I also want to give a quick shout out for anybody who is based in the UK. His family are having a public memorial to Matt Beard on the 17th of October in the Liverpool Metropolitan Cathedral at 10 a.m. And that is open to everybody. That is not an invite only. And they've said, everybody come in what you want. If you want to come in football shirts, if you want to come in comfy casual, like this is not a formal thing. This is just a celebration of his life, and no flowers, just money towards mental health services if you would like to make a donation. So I just wanted to put that out there for people, and hopefully we can get a good turnout for Matt.
Love it. Say the day and time and location again in case it just went in one ear and out the other for people.
So it's Friday the 17th of October at 10:30 a.m. at the Liverpool Metropolitan Cathedral.
There we go. All right, let's get into the football of it all. We're going to kick it off with the WSL today, which we haven't done in a while. And there's so much to say. We're going to talk about a couple games. Our game of the week that we have to get into that we're going to highlight. I'm so sorry, Allie. It's Chelsea's 4-0 win over West Ham. And you might be thinking, you guys usually choose a competitive game of the week. Sorry, Allie. You guys usually choose a competitive game of the week. Why this one? This was a fun one. Listen, maybe not for Allie. Sorry to keep bringing that up. There was just a lot to discuss here. And mainly I wanted to talk about this one because you sent a specific text to the Americans that you know and love, basically saying that you hate us all now. And I was like, well, there were many reasons for that leading up to this moment. I don't know why this was the moment. There's a lot bigger reasons for that right now, but we'll move past it. So we gotta talk about it. We gotta talk about why you sent that text. But at the end of the day, Chelsea go into West Ham. They win 4-0. It was quite a show, quite a performance. Chelsea went up 3-0 in the first 15 minutes. Then there was a red card awarded to West Ham in the 23rd minute. Chelsea scored their fourth in like the 70th minute, and that was all she wrote. Now, West Ham were the last WSL team to take a point off of Chelsea. So it really wasn't a match that was like over before it started, which is sometimes how it used to feel. However, it was over really by halftime.
No, we went into this game very much it being over before it started, based off of West Ham's performances. So
in hindsight, that's true. Do you want to talk about it? Should we start with West Ham? Or do you want to start with Chelsea?
I don't want to talk about either of them, but here we are, and we're going to do it anyway.
Let's talk about the text that you sent, Allie, because in which I'm assuming had a little something to do with a red card. But why don't you bring us through it?
Yes and no. It didn't. The red card didn't help the text, I have to say, but also just her in general. So the text I sent to the
give the context.
The text I sent to the group was, just so you guys are aware, Alyssa Thompson is making a whole stadium of people hate Americans right now,
and we were all very confused.
Yeah, and I stand by that.
I totally disagree. I mean, let's start with the red card. Her hair was clearly pulled.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. This is where right, and it's not just me.
I love that our first video people get to see us having an argument.
And it's not even my bias, because I had fans of other teams message me being like, what the hell? That was never a red, a yellow, maybe. They're in black kit. She's got black hair. It was a shirt pull, I'll give you that, but it wasn't like in the Euros where we saw Hendrik yank her hair. It was never a red. It was never a red. It was never a red.
Wait. This is hilarious. The argument you're making is that because the color of her hair matched the color of her jersey, the ref mistook the hair pull for a hair pull.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it was not an intentional hair pull. It wasn't like the Hendrik hair pull we saw in the Euros, which was a full-on grab. It was a shirt pull, and yeah, she probably did get some hair, but it wasn't like what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't a cynical hair pull foul that
it wasn't malicious, is what you're saying.
It was a yellow card at best, and I got that from Arsenal fans, Man U fans, Man City fans, Tottenham fans even, and they hate West Ham more than they hate Chelsea. Everybody but Chelsea fans thought that wasn't a red.
Okay, here's what I'll say. I'll give you the fact that, and this was my initial reaction too, it takes a lot to replicate the Hendrik hair pull from the Euros. It was not malicious like that. That was insane. It was a hair pull, and it did feel like on TV, maybe she was initially going for the jersey. It was West Ham's Bellamou, and maybe Bellamou was initially going for the jersey. I'll give her that. But when she caught hair, she didn't retract the hand. It stayed there for long enough time that it was an intentional hair pull.
No,
that's what I'm going to say. Now, I don't know what the rules are. If it was intentional, but it wasn't malicious. Is that a yellow card? Is a red card? I don't know. But I would say if you're pulling somebody's hair, I think that's fine to have a red card. If you even have your hair pulled a tiny bit, you're like, ouch. I'm imagining that really, really hurt Alyssa
Then how
Thompson.
do you feel about an elbow to the throat? Because Millie Bright did that to one of our players and only got a yellow. Like, there was no consistency whatsoever in the reffing.
The reffing is a totally different situation. Okay.
I don't think it was a red. I genuinely don't think it was a red because it's about malicious behavior. The only upside I will say to it being a straight red is we can appeal that where you can't appeal 2 yellows. And I reckon we will get that overturned.
Well, I don't mean to be, what's the word? I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I don't think it would have mattered in the context of the game.
No, I don't think it would have. No, I don't think it would have mattered. I just think it was stupid. Also,
by the way, my favorite new thing is, for those of you watching or listening, Mike, our wonderful editor and now producer, is in a tiny producer bubble in my screen,
and
it makes me proud every time Mike laughs right now. Allie,
he's laughing at us. But no, the actual like. And I don't even know what the word I'm thinking of. The reason I sent that text wasn't even the red card and the fact that she went like she'd been shot.
Yeah, you were rage baiting me is what you were doing.
It was what I was doing. But Alyssa Thompson falls down more than Humpty Dumpty. I hate divers. I hate divers more than I hate anything else. And you looked at her and she fell over.
That's not what I got from the game. It seemed like it was a physical match.
Right where my season ticket is right by the dugout, and she went to get the ball, and one of our players went to get it because it was our throw, and she fell over. Like nowhere near her, didn't touch her. She fell over because somebody looked at her. Diver.
I didn't listen. Maybe she tripped. Maybe
no.
I don't know. I didn't see that part. I did see the hair pull, and I saw the replays of it on television, which for the record, they reported as a yellow card for like way too long on TV. But that's beside the point. Anyways, that was really fun to get into. It didn't matter in the context of the game. And here's my question for you, Allie, off of that. Last week, you said Chelsea were unconvincing to you so far this year. They looked very convincing to me in this match. And yes, West Ham had a tough game, but still Chelsea looked convincing. Are you now convinced?
No, because it was against West Ham. I don't know how to make this clearer to people. It wasn't a convincing performance against a bottom of the table West Ham. They play Man United on Friday, and Man United are playing phenomenally at the moment. You're not there. You're scraping wins against lower league opposition, let's be honest, about where West Ham are at the moment. So no.
But, I mean, they didn't scrape this win.
They scored 3 goals in 15 minutes, which was West Ham very unprepared and undefended, and then only got 1 more goal under a 10-man West Ham.
Yeah, but if you're up 3-0, you're not like, hey, let's make sure we score 3 more goals. You're just like, okay.
Yeah, but in a league that's been decided by goal difference previously, you would. Like, they've battered us 8-0 before, 9-0, like.
I was convinced. I was very convinced by Chelsea. I was convinced by how they moved the ball around. I just plain and simple, I was convinced by them. It, to me, is still, unfortunately, and this hurts me to say, some of the prettiest brand of football in the WSL right now. And it just is. And for me, they're convincing. They're still the team to beat. I'm very excited for when they play United, because obviously those two are sitting at the top of the table right now, which we'll get into when we talk about Arsenal and the Arsenal match that they drew. And we'll talk about the table then. But right now City are there, but like right now it's Chelsea and United. And I'm very excited for that match, because I think that'll tell us a lot about both of these teams.
This will be their first big test, I have to say, for both teams. It will be their first big test.
Wait, hang on. You think that United haven't been tested yet?
No, I said Chelsea.
Oh, I thought you said it would be both of their first big tests. And I was like, I'm pretty sure United have been
No. It's Chelsea's. It's a big test for both of them, but it will be Chelsea's first big test, because Manchester City didn't put up really much of a fight in the first game, and then they've just played lower half teams. I
would argue, yeah, I mean, I guess the first game of the season you can't really pull all that much from, but they did play City. But yeah, I think it'll tell us a lot from that game. Do you want to spend a second on West Ham?
If we must.
If we must. Okay, then we must. Because here's what I have to say. And I won't spend like 5 minutes breaking down what went wrong, because there's like 30 minutes worth of what went wrong. Just kidding. It was tough. Here's like my TLDR of what went wrong for West Ham. I think that they got a couple of big opportunities with it in like the first minute, like really early on, and they got excited by it. And then they opened it up too much and they started really playing on the counter, but they leaned too heavily into that. And then what happened was their midfield and their defensive lines got way too separated. The space in front of the back line was wide open for Chelsea. And if you leave that space open, it's over. It's done. And that's exactly what happened. And I love Kat Gorey, but she got pulled way too attacking oriented in that game. And she needs to remember that. Like my first thought as a defensive center midfielder needs to be to make sure this space is occupied. And it just wasn't. But I don't know, Allie, like I'm a little worried about West Ham. Still 0 points on the season. The only other team with that is Liverpool.
I always say to wait till Christmas because when we've played every team, because I think we can beat a Liverpool. I think we can beat a Leicester. The way London City are playing at the moment, I think we can beat London City. So there are points to be had. We've had a rough start. I think the only game that really concerned me was the Brighton game. No offence, Michael. Tottenham, we played well and we were unlucky. Arsenal's Arsenal, Chelsea's Chelsea. Brighton, we were poor. We were absolutely dire. So that one is a concern for me. But, you know, again, talk to me at Christmas. If we're still on 0 points at Christmas, then I've got something to worry about.
All right, we're going to move on to a different discussion. And we're going to quickly, before we move on from the WSL as a whole, let's talk about this Arsenal against Aston Villa draw. It was 1-1. Arsenal were up for like the entire game. Aston Villa scored in stoppage time to draw it even at 1-1. And I don't remember if I saw this on like a post game or online, but somebody wrote, "Is the title race over for Arsenal already?" My initial reaction was, that's a stupid question, and that pisses me off because of course it's not. Like, look at how many matches are left in the season, and there's still plenty of head-to-heads with Chelsea, United, etc. But then I thought about it, and I was like, it's not a bad question. I mean, you look at how Chelsea won the title last year, and it would basically be over for Arsenal. What do you think, Allie?
Yeah, no, it's one thing because it is such a short season that you have two misses. And as somebody pointed out, the year that Chelsea won and Arsenal came a close second, Chelsea actually lost more games than Arsenal did, but Arsenal drew more games than Chelsea did. So that's the problem, is the fact that game specifically was definitely 2 points dropped, not a point earned. Like, it was the dying moments that Lucy Parker absolutely smashed it for Aston Villa. So I think Arsenal have made it harder for themselves because, as you said, they've got these heads-to-heads, but the way that, again, we talked about it, Chelsea and Man United are playing to level. Chelsea are grinding out results and Manchester United are actually playing some pretty decent football. And we've already seen them draw with Man United. So that's one head-to-head out the way.
And you said it while we were having technical difficulties. Arsenal do this all the time. They get too cocky, and then this happens.
They do. They have gone down. You think about the 4 games. So they played London City first. They went down first and then pulled it back. West Ham, they went down first and then they pulled it back. It was a 0-0 draw against Manchester United. And now to basically lose the 2 points because you were so close to a win.
Yeah. I didn't know you were going to say 2 points after that. I thought you were just going to call this draw like basically a loss. And I was like, well, that's a little extreme.
No, but like this is not a good result for Arsenal. They've made it very hard for themselves. I'll say that.
Yeah. So if you look at the table right now, Chelsea are the only team with 4 wins, no draws, no losses. They have 12 points. United are right behind them with 3 wins, 1 draw. City are right behind them with 3 wins, 1 loss. And then it's Tottenham, who have the exact same record as City. And then it's Arsenal, 2 wins, 2 draws. And that brings us to this coming weekend. United are hosting Chelsea. We're talking about this Arsenal game against a bottom of the table team, and that draw having implications for who wins the league. This is the current number 1 and number 2 facing off against each other this early on. It has implications about who's going to win the league. Plain and simple.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think whoever wins this, it's a good indicator of who's going to come top of the league come May. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And it's the only game at a reasonable hour for me to watch, which let me apologize because I gave you a hard time for being a negative Nancy at the beginning of this season because you were like, oh, these new kickoff times, I don't like them. And I was like, I agree with the reasoning because there was no reason for them to start marketing this league as like family young kid oriented. We're beyond that. And now it's affected me personally. And I do not like it because a lot of these games are at like 3:55 a.m. And even if I was on the East Coast still, that's 6:55 a.m. on a Sunday, and that's brutal. And now the only games that I can watch in real time are the Friday games because those are the only ones at nighttime. But luckily for me, that is the United Chelsea match Friday, which will be at 11:30 my time, 7:30 your time.
So we do have two massive matchups this weekend because, as we mentioned, United are hosting Chelsea and Arsenal are away at Man City. That, again, is going to have huge implications for Champions League places next season, as well as, you know, Arsenal's title hopes, because you would think if they lose to Manchester City, then that is their title hopes.
It's all but over. Maybe they're just gunning for the Champions League title again. You know, you never know. All right, let's go. Around the world, around the world, around the world.
To Spain, and Barcelona remain the only undefeated team in the league with 5 wins out of 5. Atletico are hot on their heels with 13 points. Real Madrid, however, remain adrift in 5th place with just 8 points.
And to Germany, Bayern Munich and Wolfsburg tussle with the 1st and 2nd places. Both are on equal points and wins 4 games in. Bayer Leverkusen round out the top 3 with 9 points.
To Scotland, and it was a Glaswegian derby this weekend with Glasgow City taking on Rangers. It was the girls in orange who took the spoils with a 1-0 win. Celtic are back to winning ways, scoring 4 past Montrose. New team Hamilton sadly still winless after losing to Hibs.
And finally to France, and what a difference a week can make. PSG fall to 7th after a 6-1 loss to rivals Lyon. Paris FC remains 2nd after their win, and Le Havre creep up into 3rd.
Over now to the NWSL, and it be crazy. The NWSL after dark, yet again.
Yet again. When does it not, really?
We have another confirmed playoff team. The Washington Spirit have confirmed their place in the playoffs this weekend. And Gift Monday scored the fastest NWSL hat-trick in history in just 36 minutes from the start of the match, and that officially secured the Spirit their spot.
Yeah, there's a vote going on right now for Player of the Week, and I'm like, how can it not be Gift Monday? That's insane. That was also, and we're going to get into it, but that was also the game that I last week was like, everybody circle this. This is going to be a really fun one because it was Washington, Houston, and Houston have been absolutely on fire since international break. They're definitely on the bubble right now, trying to creep up into the playoffs. But my goodness, Washington have been outstanding. And for the first time in a long time, they're basically getting everybody back healthy at the same time. And they're scary, scary good. Scary good. Another team that's scary good, Kansas City Current. We have to shout this out just while we're doing, I don't know what to call this. While we're doing history, new records, that's what we're doing. The shutout streak for Kansas City. They had a shutout streak of 870 minutes where they had not allowed a goal. If you divide 870 by 90, you get almost 10 games in a row where they had not allowed a goal, which is absolutely wild. That was snapped, but they put themselves into the history books of the NWSL with that shutout record.
Speaking of streaks and records, Casey extended to 15 games with their 4-1 win over Chicago. Washington Spirit have extended to 10 games with their win 4-0 over the Houston Dash. Utah, surprises of surprises, have extended theirs to 7 games with their 2-0 win over Bay FC, and we need to talk about them shortly because
which one, Utah or Bay FC?
Bay FC, because goodness knows that's not gone well for them.
For the record, though, we also need to talk about Utah. I have a lot to say about Utah.
Yes. And then Gotham have extended theirs to 6 games with their 3-0 win over Portland. So lots of streak extensions this weekend.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about the playoff picture, and we're going to talk about the teams that are in the hunt, as I'm going to call it. So the teams that are on the bubble, because there's 14 teams in the league. The top 8 make the playoffs. So we're going to talk about those 3 and 4 spots right below 8th place who are currently in the hunt, but if the season ended right now, they're not making the playoffs, but they're vying for it.
So just to clarify, no one is officially out yet.
Incorrect. Chicago are officially out. I haven't seen verification of this, but I'm doing the math right now. So there's 4 matches left in the season. So the most points that Chicago could possibly get is 12, right? 4 times 3 is 12. They're currently sitting with 15 points, which means that their maximum points for this entire season, if they win out the rest of these 4 games, is 27. Right now, Racing Louisville are in 8th place, the last playoff spot, and they have 29 points. So, Chicago cannot catch Racing Louisville, and thus they are officially eliminated. AFC is just on the verge of it because they have 19 points right now. If they win out their season, they'll be at 31. So, 1 more loss or 2 more losses, and AFC's out of it.
But let's talk about the teams that are, as you say, on the bubble. They are close. They could do it. So let's talk about the ones in orange. We briefly talked about them last week. Houston Dash, who seem to have really kicked it on since international break.
Yeah, we talked about them last week and how hot they've been since international break, like you said. I might have jinxed them. I'm so sorry, Houston fans. Because we talked about how they'd earned the second most points since break, behind only Kansas City Current. They'd moved themselves into 12th place with 11 points total at the break, into 9th place with 26 points, just 2 points away from last place, or excuse me, from the last playoff place in 8th. And they were taking on Washington Spirit this past weekend. The game early I had circled, and it didn't go well. It didn't go well. But that doesn't discount how great they've been, right? You look at their record, and now with this loss, 4 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses since break. It's pretty incredible. They're in 10th place, 3 points away from that last playoff spot with Racing Louisville and 4 games left. And we talked about their remaining schedule last week. And it's a tough one, right? So I feel like when we go through these teams that are on the bubble, and we're going to talk about the 4 that are just below that 8th place playoff line, which is Houston, Utah, North Carolina, and Angel City. I kind of want to talk about who we think is most likely if one team were to make it in, who's the most likely of these 4 to make it in. And you look at how hot Houston have been, and you look at where they are in the table, like how much ground do they have to make up? And they're just 2 spots out of the playoff spot, right? Just 3 points now, and that's not that bad, but they've got such a tough schedule. They've got Orlando.
I was gonna say the run up.
Yeah, it makes it hard to pick them, right? Because they've got Orlando, Angel City, Kansas City, and then Portland. That's the number 5 Orlando, the number 11 Angel City, the number 1 KC Current, and the number 6 Portland. It's pretty tough, Allie.
Yeah, that is a rough run of games for your playoff hopes. So
I mean, I don't know. You can also look at it this way. Orlando's been having a tough time recently. Angel City's been falling off. There's Kansas City. Okay, that's hard. And I think obviously Portland have been good, but Houston can absolutely take on Portland. I don't know though. Once we get to the rest of them, let's come back. Let's go through all of them, and then let's talk about who we think is most likely.
Okay, so let's talk about Utah, because for me, they have been one of the most surprising products.
Do you remember at the beginning of this season what I said about Utah?
No.
I said that I thought that they would surprise everybody, that I thought this was going to be a pretty good team, and I didn't think they were going to be down and out. And I was very concerned at the start of the season because I was like, wow, I was wrong. Like, I was dead on wrong. And it turns out I wasn't all that wrong, because they're turning into this team that we kind of expected when we saw those pieces being put together. Utah Royals, undefeated in their last 5. They won 4 out of their last 5. Their last loss was on August 8th to Kansas City Current. And that's been their only loss since international break. 4 wins, 1 loss, 4 draws since break. 5 points total in their first 13 games. 16 points total in their last 9 games since break. Puts them at 21 points. They're in 12th place, right above Bay FC and Chicago. So when you hear 12th place, that kind of makes you think like, okay, well, they're doing great, but you're in 12th place. You're trying to make it to 8th. I'm not entirely sure, but hey, I don't know. Racing Louisville, 29 points. Utah Royals, 21 points. That's an 8-point differential. And you look at who they have left. They're playing the number 14 Chicago. They're playing number 7 San Diego Wave, number 4 Seattle, and then the number 2 Washington. So also not an easy schedule, might I add.
No, because they'll have to at least get the wins for the first 2 and then hope results go their way after the second 2.
So let's look at the last 2, right? Seattle and Washington. How did Utah fare against them the last time these 2 teams played? Seattle, that was a tough one for Utah. That was actually the last game before international break. Utah lost 4-1. Washington Spirit, Utah drew 3-3 with them. That was back on May 17th. That was, the third game of the season? So this is a very different Utah Royals team than who Washington and Seattle saw before. So while I do think Washington and Seattle are 2 of the best teams in the league right now, I wouldn't write it totally off.
Okay, let's talk about a team that used to be right up there. This is an interesting one. The fall off for the NCC, the North Carolina Courage, has been interesting. They're currently 1 spot out. They are in 9th, and they're only a point behind the playoff line. But in the last 5, they've done 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. They're coming off of a 2-1 loss to Seattle from this weekend. Their schedule is probably a little bit more forgiving, would you say?
Let me look. Racing, Washington, Bay, and Gotham. Not really. I feel like all these teams, that's the number 2 Washington and number 3 Gotham. They've got Bay FC, so that's nice. But Racing Louisville, we'll get into that in a second. That's going to decide everything. Because Racing Louisville are sitting at number 8 right now in the table with 29 points. North Carolina are sitting at 9th, right behind them by 1 point. That game is this weekend, and it has the most playoff implications we've seen so far. That's Saturday, 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. Everybody should tune into that game. That's going to be, in my opinion, a playoff decider. But I think it's interesting you said that North Carolina's fallen off, Allie, because they were in 9th place before international break, and they're in 9th place now. But I get what you're saying. Like, it feels like we've been riding the wave of North Carolina. But I think that the wave we've been riding has been like the season-long wave of we expected them to be in the top 3, vying for one of those spots. And instead, they're down vying just to get into the playoffs. And it's not been what we expected from them.
No, and also the way that they had strengthened during the off-season and just the history that North Carolina has, it has been a bit of a drop-off. It has.
Yeah, now losing Jaden Shaw. I mean, we'll see how they fare. I'm really excited for this weekend. That game against Racing Louisville is going to be everything.
No, absolutely. And then the final team that we're talking about, and I talk about drop-offs, is Angel City, who are currently in 11th. Their last 5 is 1 win, 3 losses, 1 draw. And they lost 3 big players to the WSL.
Again, a drop-off from last season, but they've kind of been hanging around 11th place this whole season. Look, if we're ranking teams that I think of these 4, who has the highest chances to get in, who has the lowest chances, unfortunately, I'm going to put Angel City with the lowest chances to get in because of what you just said. They lost 3 huge players this month and last month to the WSL. Listen, Thompson went to Chelsea, Katie Zellum and Alana Kennedy both went to London City, and those are big players. And you don't just replace those types of players, and you don't replace that type of goal scoring or goal creation easily. And so I'm not going to say the season's down and out for Angel City, but if we're ranking these 4 teams, I don't think they have that great of a chance of scooting in.
Ironically, though, I would say that they've probably got the more favourable run out of the 4 teams that we mentioned, because apart from taking on number 1 Kansas City, they're taking on Houston, Portland, and Chicago, which an in-form Angel City should beat and should win those 3 at least.
Well, I don't know about those 3. I mean, that Houston Angel City game is going to be massive, right? Because Houston's in 10th, Angel City's in 11th. If you look at where they are in the standings with each other, just 2 points separate them right now. I don't know how many points they're going to separate them when we get to that game, because it's not this coming weekend, it's the following weekend. But it's going to have massive implications. And if either of them want a chance at hitting that 8th spot, that's a must-win game. It's very similar to this Racing Louisville, North Carolina game, where a draw is frankly not going to be good enough. It's a must-win game. All right. Now that we've been through these 4 teams, who do you think has the highest odds? Who do you think has the best chance, based on how they're playing and their schedule, of making it in?
It's rough, because the team I think have the best chance have one of the roughest schedules. I do think it's the Dash. I think the Dash have got the best chance just because of the form that they've managed to find. And I do think they can beat a quite shaky Orlando. I do think they can beat an Angel City. Maybe probably won't beat Kansas. But again, Portland, it depends which Portland turns up. So on paper, it's a rough one, but I would still put my money on Dash squeaking it.
It's a really tough one. I get why you picked the Dash, right? Because North Carolina's just 1 spot out of the playoffs. Houston's right behind them. And it does feel like Houston have been better than North Carolina. But you look at their last 5, they both have won 2, lost 2, and drawn 1 in their last 5. They're pretty much even in their last 5. If we're going just on who's hottest right now, I lean towards Utah, because they're undefeated in 5. They've won 4, drawn 1. They're really hot right now. And that matters a lot getting into the playoffs. And that matters a lot for these last 4 games. But is it enough? Like, you're all the way down in 12th place. You're 8 points away, so you need some help. It's not in your own hands, right? You can do everything you need to do, but if other teams keep winning, it doesn't matter. You have to get some help. So I want to pick Utah. My heart wants to pick Utah. But I don't think it's smart, because the fate is not in their hands, right? I think I have to, I kind of say unfortunately. I'm sorry, North Carolina. Unfortunately, I think I have to go with North Carolina. I'm surprising myself right now. Literally, when we started recording this, I was like, I'm definitely going to pick Utah. But it's tough. They don't hold their fate in their own hands. And that is, oh, screw it. Utah have the best odds. If anybody's going to do it, it's Utah. They have the worst odds. But if anybody's going to do it, I think against all odds, it'll be Utah.
So the unfortunately is absolutely throwing me, because even when they're doing poorly, people still are like, I can't back it all.
Can I know. It's not just because they've been so dominant and they're like a dynasty, and everybody's, for some reason, even though it's been so long since they've won, everybody's still like a little sick of seeing them into the playoffs. They are just not very exciting right now, in my opinion, to watch. It's not fun. Utah's been fun, in my opinion. I think they've just been exciting to watch. And that's why I say unfortunately for North Carolina. I'm sorry, North Carolina. I really don't have much against you. Not much. Did you want to talk BFC quickly before we wrap it up?
I do want to take BFC because we talked about extending streaks earlier in the positive. But let's talk about extending streaks in the negative, because when was the last time BFC won a game?
Yeah, I texted you this, I think right after they lost. What did I write? Let me go back in the messages. The last match that BFC won was in June.
What has happened, BFC? Because the investment is sort of there. I know they've lost Abby Dalkemper.
Congratulations to Abby, by the way. Yeah, she announced she's pregnant. Yeah,
because she's having a baby, which we're very happy for her. But unfortunately, that was their talisman player.
Yeah, we can't discount how important she was. I mean, she turned the season around for them last year. They were leaking goals last year until she came in. Remember that?
Oh yes, I do. And she was definitely shoring up their defense. So personally, I'm very happy for her, but it's not doing BFC much cop.
I think that what's been going wrong with BFC is, like, it's hard to break down into one or even two things. It's a lot of things, because I think this was a surprise for mainly for one big reason. And that's because I still believe they had the best recruitment out of college. Their rookies are stars. So I think what's gone wrong is a few things. Number one, I don't think they've been utilized correctly. And number two, the BFC last year really early on lost Alex Loera when she went down with an ACL. This was a team that was literally built around having her at the defensive center mid position. And then she asked to leave BFC, so she's no longer there. And I think all of us were sitting here being like, well, they're probably going to go out and get a defensive center midfielder. But they didn't. And that has been, in my opinion, such a big destruction, such a big downfall. And then there has been kind of like a lack of creativity in terms of formations to try to adjust for that. And then you lose Abby Dahlkemper and the back line breaks down, and suddenly Ashwala's not scoring. So I don't know. We don't know where the goals are coming from. The rookies are not being really brought in correctly. So even though they're big goal scorers, they're not feeling comfortable in finding themselves on the ball in good goal scoring places. So now we can't really get a goal in the back of the net unless it's really from Rachel Kuntananji, and we're leaking goals. So what else is gonna happen other than what just happened? I'm looking at all of their results and the last time they were able to keep a clean sheet. And you have to go all the way back to June 7th, which was also their last win when they won 1-0 over Portland. Okay. All right. That's it for us here this week. Allie, you want to tell everybody where they can find our Patreon?
So please check out our Patreon, because we are doing another episode of The Other 8 this week. That will be dropping before the games this weekend, where we'll talk about all things The Other 8. So please do check it out, because it does help, and it does help us create this wonderful show.
Tell people who the other 8 are, for those who don't know.
So the other 8 are basically anybody that's not in the traditional top 4 of the WSL. So we talk about Brighton, we talk about Everton, we talk about Aston Villa, newbies London City, unfortunately West Ham.
Anybody that's not Chelsea, Arsenal, or either of the Manchesters.
Correct.
All right. And that is it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, our first ever video podcast episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching if you watched. I hope you enjoyed the audio if you didn't watch. And that's it. So happy to be here, Allie. Maybe one of these days we can do themes and come dressed up in certain themes. Allie doesn't like that idea.
Allie does not like that idea.
All right. That's it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we will see you next Wednesday. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.